candidates, and that candidates only need to show a modicum of support in order to recognize who's happening on the ballot.
The question of support is a major issue. The party's petition to be placed on the ballot was rejected earlier this month because the group failed to have the 5,000 signatures needed to meet the Secretary of State's directive regarding minor parties. Ohioans continue to file complaints with the state about unauthorized charges turning up on their telephone bills. Ryan Libby of the Ohio Consumers Council office says charges are for a variety of so-called services.
Consumers continue to notice charges for services such as enhanced voicemail, emergency roadside assistance, or web page hosting, usually from a company they've never even heard of, being billed through the local phone company. And consumers are claiming they never authorized the charges.
Libby says some people think they might have been targeted for these charges by supplying their phone number for an internet survey. In sports, the Reds trail Houston by 1 in the seventh inning. Cloudy skies, 71 degrees in Columbus, low tonight 64, slight chance of rain tomorrow afternoon, high at 5. This is WRNC. From NPR News, this is All Things Considered. I'm Melissa Blanc.
And I'm Robert Siegel. Among all the bad economic news, we begin this hour with some movement in the positive direction. It turns out that during the spring of this year, the U.S. economy was growing much faster than anyone thought. The report out today on the gross domestic product suggests there's a disconnect between what people are experiencing, job losses and foreclosures, and what one of the government's most important statistics is indicating. Here's NPR's John Itzke.
Today's GDP report said the U.S. economy had raced ahead during April and June, growing at an annual rate of 3.3%. It's a very robust pace, says economist Nigel Galt of the consulting firm Global Insight.
That's quite a surprising outcome, given all the bad news we've been living with.
Right, like record home foreclosures, rising unemployment, a credit crisis, billions in losses at financial and other companies, and your 401k leaking money like a rusty bucket. So what gives? How can the GDP number be so disconnected from what many Americans are feeling? The answer, says Galt, is that we may be producing more, but we're shipping much of it overseas.
We may be producing more output, but we're not actually able to use it for our own benefit, for our own consumption.
Of course, Americans have built a lifestyle importing mountains of goods and services and consuming much more than we produce. So it's no wonder we've got the blues now that that's unwinding. Ken Jubik, president of Ajax & Sons, a company that produces small metal parts like hinges and brackets in Fridley, Minnesota, some of them for export. He says there's a good deal of gloom in the world. People talking about the housing slowdown and foreclosures.
I could go on and on about the doomsday, but we seem to do very well in the last 6 months in a slow economy.
In fact, the company's exports to China have doubled in the past 2 years. And the surge in exports apparent in today's GDP report comes as no surprise to Dyke Messenger, who runs a factory in Salisbury, North Carolina.
We've seen a nice growth in our exports this year on top of good growth last year, and it's coming from all over the world.
Messenger is president of Power Curbers Incorporated, which produces machines that make concrete curbs and gutters for streets on site like a paving machine. He says sales are strong in South America, Europe, Asia, North Africa, and the Middle East. But despite 20% increases in exports in the past 2 years, his profits are down because U.S. sales are suffering.
When you're down 30% domestically, that 20% increase in international still doesn't bring you back to the level that you need to be.
Unfortunately for manufacturers and the U.S. economy, says Nigel Galt, the export surge may not continue.
Certainly going to continue to see support from exports, but it's hard to believe we're going to see as much support as we did in the second quarter when export growth was 13%.
That's because foreign economies are beginning to slow, especially in Europe, and the weak dollar, which has made U.S. goods much more competitive, appears to have bottomed out and, in fact, has strengthened in recent weeks. John Itzke, NPR News, Washington.
Higher than expected growth also means heightened concern about inflation. Inflation was a pretty big worry even before these latest numbers. Consumer prices were up more than 5% in July compared to a year ago. It's the biggest jump in nearly 20 years. President Reagan once said inflation is as violent as a mugger, as frightening as an armed robber and as deadly as a hitman. Here's Chris Arnold explains.
This would be a good sound for a video game about that deadly hitman. We could call it Inflation Hitman 2000. But it's actually coming from a high-tech sheet metal cutting machine on the factory floor at a company called Metalworks in Hampshire. Fred Pierce is the CEO.
It sounds like some kind of machine gun or something.
Yeah, well, all we're doing is we're punching out at different shapes on a flat piece of steel. So we can create any shape part that someone designs.
The company makes parts for medical X-ray equipment and all kinds of other stuff, but Metalworks has been getting hurt by rising costs of raw materials.
Steel, aluminum, stainless steel, copper, all those prices have gone up dramatically in the last, really, 8 months. So since January, the price of steel is up between 70 and 80%. Not something that we can absorb.
What's been happening is that a lot of developing countries' economies have been growing like crazy, and that's created strong demand for things like steel and oil. For a while, U.S. companies tried to make up the difference by becoming more productive and efficient, but more are now trying to pass the higher costs along to customers. Dean Mackey is chief U.S. economist at Barclays Capital.
I think there are a lot of reasons to be concerned about the inflation outlook. It seems that we've reached a sort of tipping point.
Mackey says the weak dollar has been forcing foreign competitors to raise prices here in the U.S., and that makes it easier for companies here to pass along at least some of the higher costs that are squeezing them.
20% of small businesses say inflation is their single biggest problem at this point. We haven't seen those kind of numbers since the early 1980s, and they are responding by raising prices. We think the overall inflation picture continues to be quite worrisome.
Back at the Metalworks factory, Fred Pierce is raising his prices too.
We're trying to raise ours between 5 and 7%.
Around the country, that's about how much consumer prices have risen over the past year. Wholesale prices are up nearly 10%. That's a big jump. But Fred Pierce also says his sales are down 20%. Competition from abroad is still tough. And that definitely stops U.S. companies from raising their prices as much as they'd like to.
Yeah, absolutely. We lost 2 big projects in the last year. One that went to China and one that went to Mexico.
So I guess that's a clear signal. You can't raise prices that much or you're going to lose business.
That's exactly right, yeah.
So Pierce says he can't afford to offer much in the way of wage increases right now. Eric DuPont is one of the workers here who runs the big metal punching machines.
Right, I'm just very happy I have a job right now, especially with the workload decreasing because of all the economy and stuff like that. It's, yeah, making it real tough for us lower level guys to live.
Metalworks has cut back overtime hours.